What's up people, and welcome to another Warframe video. So the big news these days is U19.5 or update 19.5 is out, and I have to admit it's pretty awesome. And so with it comes a new quest called the Glast Gambit and a new Warframe. Now I have to admit I've done the quest and it's pretty darn good. And I think has been stepping up their game recently, and ever since Second Dreams I feel that they've improved in a lot of things in their events and in their quests. So yeah, good job Digital Extremes. Of course, the big part of the update is the frame, and the frame is called Nidus. And Nidus is basically the infected frame, as you can tell from the name, which means source of infection. And so when I first originally heard about this frame, I was a little bit skeptical. I wasn't really sure what the infected frame was going to be like, and I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy it, but I've been using this frame for a couple of days now. I have to admit, this is a pretty awesome frame. If you haven't seen the introductory video on Warframe's website, then I suggest you do so, but hey, let's take a look at the frame. Okay, so since Nidus is the infected frame, all his abilities are based upon infections. So his first ability, Virulence, sends out a wave of attack fungus and bacteria that attack the enemy and give it puncture damage while restoring your energy. For every enemy it hits, it gives you back 10 energy points. But the big thing is for every 5 enemies that it kills, you go up a level of mutation. And this level of mutation may be a little bit confusing at first, but it is just an amazing thing. And you could take the level all the way up to about 100, and once you hit that level, you're basically indestructible. So his second ability is Larva. And Larva is a really unusual one. It sends out this pulsating, oozing mass of tentacular flesh that gathers everybody to one place. Now it doesn't sound like it's that great of power until you realize that it works really well with Virulence because it gathers everything to one location. Now Parasitic Link is something like Trinity's Link, but it works with one enemy, so you link yourself with one enemy and it will take all the damage for you. Now if you link with a team member, then it strengthens both of you. And finally, Nidus's fourth ability is Ravenous, and Ravenous creates a field of glutinous maggots that attack your enemy and eat them. And every time it eats up an entire enemy, then you gain another mutation point. Now, a field of hungry maggots may completely turn you off, but when they look kind of like this, well, it's not as bad as you think. Now, aside from these 4 abilities, Nidus has one of the most amazing passive abilities I have ever seen in any other frames. His passive ability is based upon his mutations, and whenever he gets killed in a game, he can sacrifice 10 of his mutations to extend his life and make him invulnerable for 5 seconds. And after that, he comes back to life with half his health restored. Now 5 seconds may not sound like a lot of time, but it's more than enough time to cast Link on any of the enemies and make yourself invulnerable. And if you can't find an enemy right in front of you, then all you have to do is cast Larva, and the Larva will bring an enemy right to you. So when you combine his passive ability with his 4 active abilities, after 20 mutations or so, he basically becomes an indestructible tank. Now this wouldn't mean much if it was very difficult for him to grow mutations, but as his mutations grows, it becomes actually easier to get more mutations. So by the time you're running around the mission, you probably are going to be in a 100 level mutation relatively quickly. So to see how Nidus fares, let's take him to a simulation. And of course in the beginning, when he doesn't have any mutations, is when he's the most vulnerable, but I'm not gonna go easy on him. Let's give him 10 level 100 heavy gunners to go after. And of course at this level it's a hit or miss. I've died in this situation many times, so if you get the timing right, then everything's pretty good. You just have to get Larva out, and once you get Larva out, it's pretty good. Then you cast one or Virulence many times to get your mutations up, and once your mutation is above 3, then you could cast Link, which is what I've done. And once you have Link, you're in pretty good shape. So then you keep on casting Larva whenever they fall down, and then you keep on stacking up your mutations. And you could see the mutations in the right hand corner, lower right hand corner of the screen. I just cast his 4th ability now, and so now a bunch of maggots are running around attacking everything as well. And so at this point you're looking pretty good. So you do need to get your mutations up, because your 3rd and 4th ability uses mutations. Now what's interesting, of course, is you may hate maggots, but you'll learn to love them, because while you're attacking one enemy, they're attacking somebody else, and so they're distracting all the enemy for you. So of course, once you have your mutations up high, then you could keep on casting this field of maggots and the larva, and yeah, I mean, basically will literally take your enemy down relatively quickly. Now I am not using any of my weapons because I do want to get his mutation up as quickly as possible, and even from this first 10 enemy, his mutation level's already at 70. Okay, so once Nidus's mutation is like at 70, I'm gonna give him now 20 heavy gunners to work with, and at this point it really doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter if you make mistakes because of this Undying. Again, so long as he has a lot of mutations, even if he gets killed, those mutations will extend his life and make him invulnerable for a little while. So then you can make a ton of mistakes and it doesn't really matter, because then you could use that time to cast Link and to cast Larva. And if you feel that those 10 mutations are very costly, you could already see that he's above the original 70 mutations that he started with. And so yeah, as you go up in mutation level, it becomes easier and easier to get these mutations. So now he's maxed out at 100, and at this point he's basically an indestructible tank. He could do whatever he wants, and yeah, and the most important thing is to keep that level of mutation high enough. Now one thing I did notice is, of course, although many of his abilities does seem to help your Sentinel restore health as well, it doesn't make your Sentinel indestructible. So if you do die, there's a good possibility that your Sentinel will die and it will remain dead. His passive ability won't support the Sentinel. But overall, you know, it's pretty amazing what you can do with this frame. As you can see, I still haven't used any of my weapons yet. And he just took out all 20 of the heavy gunners. Okay, so we could try a tougher enemy this time, like a Corrupted Bombard, and let's see how he does against 20 Corrupted Bombards. So it's basically the same thing, right? You cast Larva, you cast Link, and then you start feeding on them and gain your mutation points from that. So as you can see, he's already linked to one of the Bombards, and he's just constantly increasing. And you can see he's still maxed out with all of his mutations. And as you can see, one of the things that's amazing or really works well is Larva. Again, it doesn't sound like it's much of a ability because all it does is gather enemies, but when you want to attack them with one Virulence attack, then it works really well for it to gather all the enemies for you. And of course, while it's inside the larva, it really can't do much of anything, so you get that time to at least recover while you're attacking the enemy. Okay, so he only has to get rid of the Link enemy. And so a few more attacks, and yeah, he's done. So one last example, we could try Ancient Xmas Healer, and 20 of them, and see how this one fares. Okay, so he gets dragged in. It doesn't really matter. just gather them up again. And it's, you know, it does become routine after a while, but it seems to work, so why change it? He's already linked, he just has to check where all the other enemies are, and of course he just keeps on doing what he does. Throughout this entire trial, I haven't used my weapons once, so of course you could still get the benefits of your weapon if you wanted to, but to be honest, it doesn't seem to be necessary. At least not here. Okay, so let him do a little bit more. And now he only has his, I think, oh no, there's one more. There's two more. Okay. Let's take care of these guys. And I think he only has that linked enemy, but that's just to make sure. Double check, since you have the time. And then in the end, just take him out. There! So once again, pretty easy. Okay, so one last thing, I'll show you his mod setup for the moment. Now, one thing I will say, I am not a mod expert, and I don't think this, well, I know this isn't a good mod setup. But for the moment, I've put together what I think will work. And one of the things that's questionable is fleeting expertise. I'm not sure if efficiency is a good area to work on, especially because of the fact that his first ability, the amount of energy that you get back is diminished if you use efficiency. However, what I find is that since I need to get him up and running as quickly as possible in Mutation, when you are in the beginning of a mission and you don't have that much energy, I find that efficiency works really well to get him above a certain level. Of course, once you get to a certain level, then it may not be as useful. Also, if you get good at aiming your first ability so that you could get multiple enemies, then it won't be useful at all. But for the moment, since I'm still trying to get used to using Nidus, I am putting fleeting expertise in there just to help me out. Now, for everything else, I think the stretch is there to increase the range of his larva. It doesn't increase the size of the field for his fourth ability. Everything else, he actually turns out to be really good for rage because of the fact that, of course, he doesn't have any shields, so he's constantly losing health and then regaining it back again. But as he loses health, he gains energy which he can use to gain his health back. So rage turns out to be very good. Of course, I'm using prime flow, and again, that may be questionable. If you're really good at bringing your energy back, then prime flow may not be necessary. But for my case, since I'm spamming 1 and 2 all over the place, then I tend to find that I need as much energy as possible. So anyway, that's my mod setup, but once again, it's not a tutorial, it's just something that I'm using at the moment. If you want a good mod setup, then there are other videos out there, and in fact, I can suggest you one. A gentleman by the name of Mean Sage has brought up a video for Nidus, and not only is it a good video for tutorial on how to mod the frame, but it's also very funny. He's actually a very funny YouTuber. So I left a link to his video in the description part of this video. Okay, so that concludes my first impression for Nidus. I have to admit my first impression is really positive and I have really good vibes about this guy. If I do keep on finding more about him and there's significant information, then I'll post another video. But right now I'm finding that he may turn out to be one of my favorite frames. Anyway, it's always a pleasure to make these videos for you, and thank you very much for watching them. I hope you found it informative and enjoyable. And we'll keep on making more Warframe videos in the future. In any case, we wish you all the best. And as always, enjoy a nice day, everyone.